All glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Om Ajnanatirmirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shanyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So yesterday we were talking about the effects of facing obstacles in the form of offenses in a practice of Krishna consciousness. Thank you. So one of the effects that we discussed was kautilya or hypocrisy, also known as crookedness. And we described the example of Duryodhan when he welcomed Krishna to Hastinapur, since Krishna had come as the messenger of peace. We also discussed about what brings about, or how is it that one has such challenges in a practice of Krishna consciousness. And we referred to how Srila Jiva Goswami points it out by stating that sometimes one does not have sufficient faith in the potency of the practice of Krishna consciousness. One feels that the benefits that one accrues, one gets by chanting Hare Krishna or by practicing devotional service is over-exaggerated. And this makes one look towards other activities which would help one to make up for, or which seemingly appears to be more powerful than devotional service itself, than bhakti itself. And that is how those with fruitive intent, they become attracted to various karma kand processes. And the example given by Srila Jiva Goswami is about King Nriga, who had faith in Krishna, who was very religious, saintly king, the son of Ikshvaku, very charitable too. However, it is possible that he considered his charitable acts to be the way to salvation. And hence, a slight discrepancy in his behavior, or even without his knowledge, a slight discrepancy, made him go to hell after he gave up that body of a king. And there, his mind being still influenced by the effects of fruitive actions, he chose a life of a single life, or one birth as a lizard, rather than a lifetime, many lifetimes of enjoyment in the higher planets. Ambarish Maharaj also seemingly faced a similar situation. There was some discrepancy. Durvasa Muni felt that Ambarish Maharaj had not followed the etiquette of receiving a guest properly. And according to him, according to Durvasa Muni, that was punishable by death. So he created a fiery demon. Since Ambarish Maharaj only knew, or he only had belief in taking shelter of Krishna, there was nothing else that he fell back on. So he simply remembered Krishna. And his remembrance of Krishna was perpetual. It wasn't that when he saw the demon, that is when he remembered Krishna. He would always remember Krishna. And even when the demon was there, it is not that his remembrance of Krishna was intensified. He was always intensely remembering Krishna. So it couldn't rise any higher. The intensity was at its highest. Always. So Jiva Goswami points that out. And he says that one must be very careful that one does not disregard the description of the glories of devotional service that has been mentioned in the scriptures. And he quotes the example from the Puranas about the female mouse that, wanting to be free from impending death, seemingly offered a ghee lamp to Lord Nrsimhadev, to Lord Krishna. And in her next birth was born as a princess married to the king of Kashi, and she spent her whole life as the queen of Kashi, queen of Varanasi, offering ghee lamps to Krishna. And she perfected her life and went back home, back to Godhead. So Maharaj Nriga had to go to the court of Yamaraj, whereas Ambarish Maharaj was not just protected by the Sudarshan Chakra, but he was always remembering Krishna, and he went back to Krishna. Now, today we are going to discuss another aspect. One of the effects of committing offenses is kautilya. One naturally becomes a little hypocritical. Like one of the important limbs of being or taking initiation is putting on tilak. It's very important. Because that is one of the items of mercy, that is, which one receives from the spiritual master at the time of initiation. So tilak, whenever we put on tilak, we have certain mantras that we chant and we remember the Lord while putting on tilak. So since we are doing it as an offering to Krishna, following the instructions of the spiritual master, one must put on tilak very graciously. But if one is not careful and one has created obstacles in one's practices by being a little careless, then the act of putting on tilak is either very ritualistic, it could be done out of a desire to seek prestige, it could be performed so that we look beautiful. So those are the feelings that arise when we create obstacles in our practices. And how do we create obstacles? By making offenses. So simple act of putting on tilak could actually be from the platform of crookedness or kautilya or hypocrisy. Yes? So another effect of having committed offenses or committing offenses is ashraddha. Ashraddha means our faith in the process and our faith in the association of the deities, our faith in the practice of Krishna consciousness, and our faith in the association of devotees slowly gets eroded. Ashraddha. And even if we have proof of the potency of devotional service, we kind of find other reasons to describe the glories. We find ordinary reasons to kind of describe why that event happened or how that is actually not really glorious. Or we kind of look at other perspectives. Rather than accept being straightforward and accept the proper perspective, we look for other perspectives. This is ashraddha. Lack of faith, or our faith slowly gets eroded. Yesterday we quoted a verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam that when one is chanting the holy names of the Lord, yes, tat grihyamane harinama dheyi na vikriyetatha yada vikaro netre jalam gatra ruheshu harshaha. If tears do not flow down one's eyes and every single hair does not stand on end in ecstasy. When one is chanting the holy names of Krishna, or when one has taken the shelter of the holy names of Krishna, then it can be concluded that our heart is steel framed. That is the only conclusion. In another place in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a description of how the holy name saves us from a very great, a very fearful situation. Apannam samsritim ghoram yannama vivasho grinan tat sadhyamuccheta yad bibheti bhayam swayam yad bibheti swayam bhayam. Apannam samsritim ghoram. Having been entangled in this fearful situation, which is the material world. Now, sometimes, as devotees, we have heard that the material world can be a difficult place. But unfortunately, the way we kind of relate to that is really funny. It's very funny. You know that story or the joke about a person, a devotee, a Hare Krishna devotee, coming face to face with a man-eating tiger. You know that? Oh, you've heard that story. Everyone's heard that story. After I kind of narrate it, you're like, oh yes, we know that story. So this Hare Krishna devotee, a devotee chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, finds himself right in front of a man-eating tiger, and the tiger is really hungry. So what does the devotee do? The devotee prays to Krishna. This is how a devotee relates to very fearful situations in the material world. So the devotee prays to Krishna, Krishna, please make this tiger a devotee. Because we know the 26 qualities are, all those qualities of a devotee. How a devotee is compassionate, peaceful. Oh Krishna, please make this tiger into a devotee. So Krishna says, Tathastu, as you wish. And the tiger turns into a devotee. But the tiger still comes forward to eat the man. The only difference is the tiger is now chanting the Prasadam prayers. Mahaprasade go. Sharira Vidyaja. So this is how it is, how we find ourselves relating to the material world. It lands it still is a very dangerous situation, but it's so funny. Yes. So apannam samsritim ghoram. Ghoram means terrible, very fearsome. Samsriti means the existence of the circle of birth and death. Samsriti. Practically the material world, that is what it means, what is its meaning is. Apannam, having been being entangled in that. And one never even realizes how one gets entangled. And so many material situations. When Srila Prabhupada was in the Netherlands, And they were trying. Netherlands has many interesting stories in our Hare Krishna movement, Holland. So he was invited for the installation of the deities, and everything that could go wrong was going wrong because no one had paid attention to any details. So the altar was kind of falling, the roof of the altar was kind of falling, and the deities are not properly stationed there, so on and so forth. So seeing all this mismanagement, Srila Prabhupada comes out. So they have this, they are in this hall, and towards one end they have sectioned that hall by using a curtain, and behind the curtain they are making those preparations for the deities to be installed. And so Prabhupada comes out from behind the curtain, and there's a crowd waiting for the curtain to open. So Prabhupada sits down, and there is this young hippie boy waiting for things to unfold, maybe very excited, has no idea about any devotees, has not even seen the Bhagavad Gita or the picture of Prabhupada at the back, has never done that. So Srila Prabhupada comes and sits down, and there is some concern on his face because the deities of Radha and Krishna are there right behind that curtain. Or maybe it was Gauranita. So the deities were there, and there was some concern on his face. So this young happy boy, out of his sheer ignorance and this idea of being intelligent or knowing what is the correct path, he turns to Srila Prabhupada, understanding that he is a little concerned, and he takes out a bead bag and he tells Prabhupada, chant Hare Krishna, Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada looks at him incredulously and he removes, Srila Prabhupada puts his hand into his bead bag and takes shelter of the holy name. And somehow the program happened, it went through. It wasn't really, everything was falling and it didn't stand up. But for that hour or so, things just stayed where they are. And Srila Prabhupada was simply chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. The person who suggested that to that young man who suggested it to Srila Prabhupada had absolutely no idea what his suggestion meant. He had heard that the solution to all problems is chanting the holy names. And he had heard that the holy names is the 16-worded Mahamantra. So he looked at Srila Prabhupada and he kind of felt his concern. He suggested to Srila Prabhupada, chant Hare Krishna. So Prabhupada, when he was chanting Hare Krishna, it was in complete knowledge. So there is a difference. Although the suggestion has been there, doesn't mean that the suggestion is imbued with knowledge. The recipient of that suggestion is very qualified. Srila Prabhupada gives example of what is intelligence. Natural intelligence. He says, a simple villager is walking down a dirt road. In some rural part of the country, he's walking down a dirt road. This is India. So as he's walking, he finds a piece of string. He says, okay, what can I do with a piece of string? Let's the string be as it is. Walks on. Then he finds a piece of bamboo stick. And says, what will I do with the bamboo stick? So he just walks on. Then he finds a pumpkin shell, the insides of which had been completely dried up, but the shell was still intact. So he gets an idea. He picks up the shell, backtracks, picks up the bamboo stick, goes back, picks up the string. Now he somehow or the other pushes the stick into the pumpkin shell, attaches a string, one end of the string, to the end of the stick, and the other end of the string he attaches it to the pumpkin shell by some arrangement and makes a musical instrument out of it. Out of ordinary things lying around, an intelligent person creates an instrument. Yes? So the person who offered this suggestion was not really aware of what is the potency of the holy names. But Srila Prabhupada, who received this suggestion, was so qualified that his chanting of the Hare Krishna was potent. Of chanting the holy names was potent. So, apanna samsritim ghoram yan nama vivasho grahan avivashaha. Sometimes, practically all the times, and it is occasionally that we find ourselves chanting consciously. Isn't it? Those occasional moments where one suddenly feels one has become a pure devotee. And occasionally one is really meditating on hearing the holy names, and there is some transformation within the heart, and you're like, yeah, I made some progress today. Let me mark it down somewhere, post it on. Today my chanting was really good. Sometimes our chanting can be very well related to this weather in Seattle in the past. 5 days of the sun, and the rest of the year is quite depressing. Dark and ominous clouds cover the sky. That's how we can sum up our yearly chanting. Like 5 days or maybe 5 moments. And then we consider that to be like, amongst all these devotees, I am the most pure here because I had 5 days. 5 good days. It happens. We need to find some inspiration, some self-motivation. So this is, by default, this is how we do it, by imagining ourselves to be great. Rather than try and understand how great the process is and how wonderful the potency of the holy names are, by default, we try and motivate ourselves by saying, I can do it, I will do it, I'm meant to do it. So I. So anyways, avivasho grinan. Avivasho grinan means one has unconsciously chanted the holy names. What is the effect? Tat sadhyo, immediately, even unknowingly chanting the holy names, that is how powerful the holy names are, till offenses come in. Till the time there are no offenses, even unknowingly chanting the holy names or chanting of the holy names without really knowing its potency, if there are no offenses being committed in that stage, what happens? Tat sadhya muccheta. It frees us from that fear. It frees us from the entanglement called the material world. It frees us from the bonds of the 3 modes of material nature. One becomes liberated. Muccheta. Why is that? And the author, the speaker of the Srimad Bhagavatam says, Yad bibheti swayam bhayam. Fear personified is fearful of the potency of the holy names. Or fear personified worships the holy names. That's how powerful the process of chanting is. Now, as devotees, when we are on the road, behind the wheel, driving our cars or vans, and all of a sudden that something unexpected comes up and you hit the brakes. Hare Krishna! Those words just jump out of your mouth. Your tongue just kind of throws that out. Hare Krishna! And after that, for the next 2 days, we are telling the entire world, how naturally our tongue chanted Hare Krishna in that situation. And what is very interesting is it has been so many years since we have had innumerable incidents like that, but the enthusiasm to tell the entire world never goes down. It's like, do you know, just yesterday that happened. So you see, even the unconscious chanting of the holy names liberates one from fear. We were not planning before we began our ride that I'm going to get into a situation where I would chant Hare Krishna because my car is about to crash. One doesn't plan that. That is as unplanned as we dozing off while chanting. Or maybe we do plan that, We kind of figure out the best place in the entire temple hall. The premium seats for falling off to sleep. The falling off sleep zone. But it happens, isn't it? How is that? How does fear simply run away? Because fear worships the holy names and bows down before the holy names, surrenders to the holy name. Fear personified herself surrenders to the holy names of Krishna. Yat bibheti swayam bhayam. So having described that, Jiva Goswami, he mentions that if the holy names are so potent, how is it that one does not make sufficient progress, regular progress? How is it? So he comes to the point of offenses again. Today we'll just describe the effect of such offenses. So the offenses are done. Our progress has kind of either stopped or decelerated. We are being pulled back by these strings that we have attached to ourselves. It is pulling us back. And what are those strings? The strings of offenses. It is keeping us back. Ashraddha. These offenses slowly eat away at our faith. They eat away our faith in Krishna, our belief in the process. And after some time, one believes more in the techniques of chanting than the chanting itself. One makes all arrangements because one gets a nice seat on which one can sit with a straight back. One kind of sleeps some extra hours, generally it is 6 to 8 hours, 6 hours. One says, all right, let me give a couple of hours so that I don't fall off to sleep during my chanting. One takes those deep breaths, pranayam and everything. One keeps the written name in front of us, the name in the written form. And now one is ready with the bead bag properly, holstered on our hand. We are ready. We are so sure that our technique is going to give us the benefit of chanting the holy names that we forget to meditate on the holy names. We forget to hear the sound of our chanting. And when we do that, most of the time, for the couple of hours that we spend chanting, it's about all technique. Straightening our back, readjusting our seat, keeping that placard or that small piece of paper in different positions. To the extent sometimes devotees kind of always slap them various, you know how it is. So these techniques are meant to support our attempt at meditative chanting. It is not supposed to give us the results of our chanting. So ashraddha, offenses eat away at our faith. And the example is given from the Mahabharata. So the news has come in. Krishna is coming. And what is his purpose? He wants to see if there can be peace made out between the two parties. If they could arrive at some peaceful solution. Like Krishna, in our modern terminology, Krishna would come and tell both the Pandavas and the Kauravas, especially it's the Kauravas, the Pandavas are already okay with it. Like Duryodhan, peace out. Something like that. Krishna would come with his fingers there, peace out. So he comes to Hastinapur and Duryodhan welcomes him. And then they spend the day just taking some rest or just becoming used, adapting oneself to the new environment. And the next day would be the meeting. So early morning, not really early, but in the morning, the ministers and the elders, they have all gathered in a specific place in a hall, and they're waiting for Krishna to come in. And then Lord Krishna enters the hall, and everyone stands up respectfully, and they welcome Krishna. Even Dhritarashtra, being the king of Hastinapur, the caretaker king, although he cannot see, he feels the presence of Krishna. And he welcomes Krishna. O son of Vasudeva, we are so fortunate to have your association. You are the well-wisher of all living entities. Indeed, you are our friend. Please come and take your seat and address us. Krishna comes and takes a seat. Everyone sits down. He offers his respects to the elders. He offers his respect to Dhritarashtra. He offers his respect to Bhishma. He offers his respect to Kripacharya and Dronacharya. And even to Duryodhan. Because Duryodhan is older than him in age. And to Shakuni, he offers his respects. And then Krishna takes his seat. And with a smile on his face, he looks around at everyone. And just by that smile, great souls like Bhishma Dev and Dronacharya, they feel immense happiness in their hearts. Even a neutral person like Karna feels some warmth within his heart. Duryodhan is cautious. Shakuni is already scheming. Dhritarashtra is a little skeptical. Krishna understands everyone's mood. So he makes his best speech about how peace is the way forward, and one must learn to share. One must let everyone have their rightful shares, their rightful properties. And Lord Krishna, he encouraged them to give half of the kingdom to the Pandavas. Once again. And Dhritarashtra is shaking his head, affirmative. Bhishma Dev, Dronacharya are also okay with it. However, Duryodhana is not happy. Duryodhana becomes incensed with anger. He's like, how dare you? How dare the Pandavas demand half the kingdom? They have no right to this kingdom. And Krishna waited for Duryodhana to finish his angry speech, and then in a very soothing voice, he explained that no, the Pandavas are also the rightful heirs to this kingdom. In fact, Yudhishthira is the eldest of all. And Duryodhana said, no, just because my father was cheated of his throne, I am being cheated of my rightful proprietorship to this throne. So Krishna, he tried to explain to them. Duryodhana was adamant. So Krishna, he just ignored Duryodhana after that, like, I'm done with this person. He turned towards Dhritarashtra, and Dhritarashtra sensed Krishna wanting him to give his opinion. And Dhritarashtra, he feigned helplessness. He said, Vasudeva, I know that you really are seeking the welfare of all. But I think Duryodhana has a point. I would love to offer something to the Pandavas and see that they are happy. Let them just come and serve Duryodhana. Bhishma, he interjected and he said, they are also princes of this dynasty. They were born in this dynasty. They also have a right to rule. Dhritarashtra said, I would love to do that, but what can I do? Duryodhana is really angry with them. The Pandavas don't get along with my sons. It is their problem. So I am helpless, Krishna. Ultimately, if Duryodhana doesn't feel comfortable, then the Pandavas will not get anything. So Bhishma and Drona are concerned. They realize that this situation could become very volatile. I mean, if Krishna becomes angry right now, seeing how hypocritical Dhritarashtra is, the Sudarshan could manifest right here. And they knew Krishna's potency. So they tried to pacify Krishna. They tried to make Duryodhana keep quiet and sit down. But Duryodhana was like, no, never. I will not give anything to the Pandavas. And Krishna said, Yudhishthira Maharaj was aware that this would be the reaction. And the broad-minded soul Yudhishthira is ready to accept 5 unknown villages, 1 village for each brother, so that they could perform their duty as the heirs to the right to rule as the descendants of the Kuru dynasty. They need to rule. Even if it is an unknown village, a small village on the edge of this planet, they are ready to accept it. Just 5 unknown villages. And Duryodhana said, not even a grain of sand will I give to them. Not one grain. They cannot rule. They have no right to rule. So, Krishna, he got up and he said, I put forth this proposal. I am just a messenger. I will retire to my chambers now, and I want you all to discuss on this, debate on it, and hopefully you will come to a very acceptable solution. A solution that is acceptable to all the parties. So Krishna goes back to his chambers. And Duryodhana, as soon as Krishna leaves, he says, no one dare convince me to give the Pandavas even a tiny bit of this kingdom to rule. And he leaves. So there is no discussion. That is the end of any discussion for the day. So Bhishma and Drona, they go and meet Krishna. And they try and console him. What they're trying to do is actually trying to protect everyone's interest as much as they could. Not console Krishna, but try and explain to Krishna how the situation could be managed. But Krishna said, it's not possible. Unless and until the Pandavas are given some property to rule. And this is injustice. That night, Krishna asked for an audience with the caretaker king, Dhritarashtra. That evening, he goes up to Dhritarashtra. Now Duryodhana's spies are everywhere, so they immediately inform him that Krishna has gone to visit your father. Duryodhana is concerned. So Krishna visits Dhritarashtra. And he says, your son is like that spark of fire in the forest that could burn down the entire forest. The entire Kuru dynasty would be finished. People on both sides would be killed. It will be a very gruesome war and so much loss of life and property. You are the caretaker king. You have to be strong. You have to control your son. And Dhritarashtra said, I want to, but Krishna, what can I do? My affection for my son makes me weak-hearted and weak-minded. Krishna said, just arrest him, tie him up in ropes and put him in a dungeon. That is the only way this Bharatvarsha will have a happy future. Dhritarashtra was so shocked, he couldn't say anything. And Krishna said, my dear king, I have said what I had come here to say. I leave you with your thoughts. And Krishna left. The next morning, Krishna comes in. There has to be a conclusion to his visit. So he comes in for the concluding meeting. And everyone's gathered in there. Duryodhana, Dushashan, Karna and Shakuni, they gang up on Krishna. And they call out for their soldiers that were waiting outside. Arrest this man, tie him up and throw him in the dungeon. Everyone is shocked. What happened? Why would Duryodhana react like that? So what had happened is, the news that Krishna had come and he had advised Dhritarashtra to arrest his own son had reached Duryodhana. Now you decide for yourselves how it reached Duryodhana. Maybe the walls of the palaces have ears, or maybe Dhritarashtra sent a WhatsApp message to his son Duryodhana. He WhatsApped him. My son Duryodhana, this is what happened. Whatever it was, Duryodhana was aware of Krishna's advice. So he was so concerned, he immediately gathered together his dear brother Dushashan and his friend Karna, and they went to his uncle Shakuni. What should be the plan moving forward? So they came up with this plan. Krishna wants to tie you up. Forget him tying you up. We here have our soldiers, we have our army, we will capture Krishna. And that is how the next day this scene unfolded. And when Krishna saw all of them rushing towards him, and when he heard Duryodhana order his soldiers, capture him, tie him up in chains, he was no longer smiling. He started laughing softly. And then Krishna, as the soldiers came up to him, he expanded his form and started becoming huge. And then the soldiers saw him getting huge. They stepped back. They were afraid. Duryodhana wasn't afraid. He jumped in along with Dushashan. I will tie him up. And Krishna manifested his partial universal form with the planets and the elements all within his transcendental form. He did not even tell Duryodhana, Duryodhana, I give you the eyes to see, like he did to Arjuna. It was a partial vision or a partial universal form that he manifested. And when he did manifest that form struck such fear in the heart of Duryodhana, Dushashan, Shakuni, Karna, everyone. And Bhishma started glorifying Krishna. Dronacharya offered his respects to Krishna along with Kripacharya. Dhritarashtra was, when he was informed what was happening, his heart sunk down in his chest. He was so fearful for his son's welfare. Krishna laughed. And when everyone had kind of fallen back, Krishna resumed his own form and walked out of the council hall, a free man. No one dared touch him or even go behind him. And Krishna, he got up onto his chariot and went back to Dwarka, knowing very well that the war is imminent. Duryodhana saw the universal form. Bhishma informed Duryodhana later on, Duryodhana, come to your senses. Don't you understand? This is Krishna. This is the Supreme Lord. And this is his desire. Why can't you accept the desire of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? And Duryodhana said, this is all just magic. Krishna is a very powerful magician. He is not God. He's just a magician. Even I know magic. This is what Duryodhana thinks. Even I have the power to put people into illusion. But I was so shocked I couldn't respond. If I had responded, then Krishna's magic would have been inferior. That was what Duryodhana was thinking, that I am sufficiently powerful. I also have yogic powers. And Duryodhana did have yogic powers. He could disappear in water and people couldn't find him. So this is Ashraddha. When Arjuna saw the universal form, his response is, oh Krishna, I considered you to be my friend. That was my illusion. Now I realize that I was such a fool. Please accept my surrender. And when Duryodhana saw the partial form, and even then, if Krishna showed him the full universal form, Duryodhana would have died of a heart attack, basically. Krishna was concerned about his welfare. But to Arjuna, he showed his complete universal form. And Arjuna surrendered. Duryodhana could not surrender because he did not have faith in Krishna. His faith was weak. His faith was dependent on his selfish desires. If he felt that this was for his benefit, then he would express his faith unto Krishna. Oh Krishna, please come, have the best palace, and we are your servants. Like that. So, this ashraddha arises within the hearts of practicing devotees if offenses are committed. And how is that? One of the symptoms of this could be, this ashraddha, this lack of faith or dwindling faith could be one becoming distracted by the external power of the chanting of the holy names or of the practice of Krishna consciousness. One becomes more attracted towards that. Like, Prahlad Maharaj was so much immersed in Krishna that they were trying to pierce him with spears and lances. And that attracts one. Oh wow, he's so surrendered that weapons cannot touch him or cut him up. He's so surrendered that an elephant walks all over him and nothing happens to him. And that overwhelms us. And when we hear of somebody just chanting Hare Krishna and there's nothing, no special effects in that version, then it's like, well, I like the Prahlad's version more. That version which had all the special effects in it. Was Prahlad wanting those special effects? No. Prahlad wasn't kind of praying to Krishna, Krishna, please show your power. Oh holy name, show your power. Let this elephant know how powerful you are. Let nothing happen to me. He wasn't thinking like that. But we kind of take on that message. If I chant the holy names will protect me in such a way that even an elephant cannot trample me. So rather than having a simple, very innocent approach towards taking shelter of the holy name, we become again a little fruitive, becoming distracted by the benefits that one gets by chanting of the holy names. And this again leads us to distracted practices. And hence there's no progress. Not much. Not as much as we want. So one must be very careful. First of all, one must have full faith in the potency of the holy names. Secondly, one must believe all the glories that have been mentioned about even unconsciously chanting the holy names of Krishna. One must try not to commit offenses, especially the one that was mentioned yesterday, considering any other process to be as beneficial or more beneficial than the chanting of the holy names and bhakti itself. And therefore, being very faithful to the fruitive processes of karma kanda along with bhakti. Is not just a distraction, but it could result in a person committing offenses. So the more we hear about the glories of the holy names, the more it should make us feel sheltered. Just like a child feels sheltered, a little child feels sheltered around its parents. The child does not figure out, oh, my parents has, no, my father has so much power in his arms and my mother has so much power. No, the child doesn't figure that out. The child simply has this innocence, this complete faith, complete faith in Krishna, in its parents, in the shelter of its parents. So Jiva Goswami, through this explanation of Ashraddha, he says, this is how we can understand. If we are getting distracted by the external benefits of chanting and that becomes our goal, then maybe somewhere in the past we must have committed offenses. And hence, we must now, having understood that this is what is happening, we must try and change, we must try and tweak certain essential attributes in our practice. We must tweak that. What are the recommendations that Jiva Goswami gives? And a little more about his explanation of how glorious is the process of bhakti compared to any other process, we will be discussing tomorrow. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Any questions or comments? Any clarifications? Yes, Prabhu.
We should have faith, and other people depend on that. But how to strengthen our faith? Because, for example, if we listen to lectures, we read in the Mahabharata, we read the Bhagavatam, what are the devotees,
Mm-hmm.
the last Maharaj.
Mm-hmm.
From our level, it is still, we accept it, but we still, we lack that permission that yes, that can happen, or whatever the way it is.
Yes.
Then we're doing so many offenses and so many other things, and we have to be very careful about Vaishnava approach. That is, how can we actually strengthen our faith?
Thank you for asking a question. How do we strengthen our faith? We are reading books, we hear lectures, or we attend seminars, and we have discussions also. So how do we strengthen our faith? That is a question. Any analytical approach will always have different perspectives. As stated in the Mahabharata itself, Tarko Pratishto Shrutaya Vibhinna. There will be different perspectives to it. So what does one do? Are perspectives, different perspectives, not acceptable? Can't we accommodate them? We can. There's always not just a single perspective. And there are many perspectives, and each perspective individually can be very correct too. So what do we do? How do we accept for ourselves a process that would help us strengthen our own faith? Mahajano yena gata satanta. Follow in the footsteps of the previous acharyas. Great personalities that we trust. Great personalities that we take inspiration from. In simple words, to strengthen our faith, we must associate with those that have strong faith. Any other techniques that are a little analytical in nature will always have many perspectives to it. It's not that we must not try and analyze things and use different approaches. We can. However, if it is done without association with those who have strong faith, then our faith does not really make progress. So there has to be association with people that have strong faith. Jai Shri Shri Radha Nila Madhav Bhagwan ki Jai. Is that all right? So association. There is this statement that to understand the book Bhagavatam, one must approach the person Bhagavat. Because the person Bhagavat embodies the book Bhagavat. To have sufficient faith or to increase our faith, one must associate with faithful people. Other techniques are also, they facilitate that, they support it, or they enhance it. This has to be the base ingredient, association with faithful people. You know how sometimes one is a little unsure of what to do, and there are 10 other people who are kind of very much excited, do it, let's do it, and they rush forward. Then we also feel the adrenaline rush and we also rush along with them. Although before doing that we were a little unsure of what to do. So we were having doubts. Oh, they're also running, let me also run. So when we are with faithful people, that is how our faith increases. Now how do we find out who is faithful? Well, that is what human form of life is for. To be able to discriminate between that which is favorable and unfavorable. You're welcome. Any other question or comment? Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaura Bhakta Brinda ki jai. Salah.